Hey there, everybody, and welcome to Real Time, where we are live talking about film and television and everything in between. Today, we have a very special guest, Miss Lina Muhammad, who I'm very happy that she's on the show. We're going to talk about her activism and, namely, her photography skills and how she incorporates that into her work. So let's dive right into it. Hey there, everybody, and thank you all so much for tuning in on Real Time. Today's special guest, Miss Lina Muhammad, who is an activist and a photographer, and I've seen her, growing into this skill over time, and it's been an amazing journey. And I know she's been doing amazing, amazing stuff. But before we get into that, I first want to say thank you all so much again because this is our 10th episode of Real Time, and since quarantine had took over, or rather Corona, and made us all be in quarantine, I just thought, why not right now? We need to start. I need to start doing this show that I've always dreamt about doing, and I started fully planning it out, the look, the feel, and I've been doing more and more updates. If y'all been following along, just updates to the set and everything. And so I think right now it's getting a lot better than I originally started it. And so thank y'all again for tuning in. If y'all notice some new things, make sure to comment down below and point those out. And so without further ado, let's bring on Miss Lina Muhammad. Give it up, everybody. Lina, you are on. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. How are you?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
It's been a minute since we've chatted,
Yeah, yeah,
and I and
definitely.
I thought and I thought it would be a great idea to have somebody like yourself come on the show because on the show we talk about film and television and everything in between, and
Yeah,
of course part of that is photography. And I know you've dove right into it, and mashallah, you're doing amazing work. And so I just want I thought it'd be a great idea to have you come on the show and tell people about what you do and how you incorporate photography into that. So if you could just briefly introduce yourself.
yeah. Again, hi, I'm Lena Muhammad, originally from Dallas, Texas. So that's how me
Whoop,
most
whoop.
kind of know. But I moved to New York about 3.5 years ago, and I've been kind of working with my photography skills. I'm studying at NYU, studying psychology.
Mm-hmm.
But on my free time, I'm running a side hustle, and I'm doing shoots here and there.
Yeah,
And yeah, and I think that's kind of like really a lot of it is just like my school and photography, and kind of like learning to balance those two.
for
Is
sure.
definitely in a big city like New York is always a challenge.
So that's very exciting. Like you know, you're from a small town in Dallas, and then just I'm gonna make it to the big leagues, and I just want
Yeah.
to go for the jugular basically and go
Yeah.
straight to New York. And I think that in itself is takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to make that kind of step. To leave your family, to pursue your career, to pursue your dreams. So what is it about photography that got you interested in doing it in the first place?
Yeah. Well, maybe not to your surprise, but a lot of it links back to you, Mustafa, actually. Um,
What?
be being the photographer that you are, and I remember as a kid, as a young kid, I was watching those YouTube videos, and I would
Oh
get
my
super
God.
excited, and I think that's really a lot of it was just like being able to tell a story. I've always been passionate about telling stories, but telling it
Hmm.
from the lens, like the story from the lens. And I think you could probably relate to this as well. Is like
Of
that
course.
you can control this story, and you can, and that saying a picture's worth a million words is absolutely true because I've seen it. I've seen how much I could show in watching making people happy, after a shoot and like showing them their pictures that
Yeah.
smile, that aftermath, I think is honestly the number one reason that kept me really going, even though I had moments of failures as well.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, what challenges did you face, trying to
Mhm.
become a photographer?
Yeah, yeah. Well, as many people might know, I mean, camera equipments are very, very expensive,
It is,
and
yes. It's a
um,
really expensive hobby.
yeah, and it's coming in from a small town, and my family didn't have a lot of money. I also didn't have a lot of money. So every money that I like, every
Yeah.
jobs that I had, the money that I was making was really for, you know, substantial things like food, the normal things that every human needs. And so my
Right.
photography sometimes ended up getting backtracked a little bit, and so that would always frustrate me. And
Of
I wanted to
course.
get the newest lens, because when you have the best equipment and the new, well, this is the mindset that I had at least at 16, 17 years old. I was thinking I
Yeah.
had to have the best lens, I had to have the best camera in order to get booked. Like, that was the only way people would take me seriously.
Right. Quality.
Exactly, exactly. And so I think that was a big challenge that I had to realize, like, it's not necessarily about your equipment, but rather how you use that craft, in that
Absolutely.
medium really makes a difference. Because I've seen people with big and amazing cameras, and their work is
Nah.
sometimes mediocre. Yeah, yeah. I hate to say it.
It's true though, and you know this, like, I'm a huge advocate of using whatever tools that you have at your disposal, and getting the most out of it, um, even if it's just a cheap DSLR or your smartphone. Or the boom of social media has really made careers for people. And in that, of course, with Instagram as a major platform for photography, but then in the more recent years they've incorporated video and then IGTV.
Mhm.
But before that, like, it was just all done with your cell phone, right? You take a picture with your phone or a video clip, and then you just upload it straight to Instagram, right? And these images are very, very high quality. The cameras on these smartphones are pushing the boundaries. But of course, the DSLRs, the mirrorless cameras,
Yeah.
these dedicated cameras have the advantage by having actual optics instead of faking it digitally with software. um, so how did you overcome your challenges, I guess, being the struggling artist like we all go through
Hmm.
in the creative space? How did you uh, how'd you go about, to overcome that?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to say it's something that I'm still working on. It's still a
Mm-hmm.
challenge that I'm still learning every day how to work with that. But I think, moving to New York and talking with other photographers and networking with other photographers and being able to hear that from them themselves, and hearing their process of becoming the photographer they are,
Mm-hmm.
and hearing that they had that same struggle, I
Mm-hmm.
think that really helped me realize, okay, this is a process, and I just have to go through this process. And it's okay that I might just have, very standard lens, and I might not have like the best equipment, but I'm working on those skills, to promote myself and make myself a better photographer every day. And
Mm-hmm.
so, using applications like, I really like Skillshare. I
Mm-hmm.
love learning different skills from there, because again, I didn't take classes for photography. I never took a course. Everything I know
Same here.
as
I mean, we're all
yeah,
self-taught, right?
yeah, everything about photography is self-taught. And so YouTube becomes your best friend, and so that's really where you learn a lot of those skills.
That's amazing that you bring that up. I mean, we're not sponsored by Skillshare or any of these premium platforms, but there are resources out there, like I talked about in my last live stream earlier this week, which was having those resources, which is utilizing everything that you can at your disposal, and of course that includes the resources. So using YouTube, using Google, and then other platforms that you can use that money to invest in yourself. And that's what it is. That is the I think the life lesson, which is you need to invest in yourself, and put your money where your mouth is, so that way you can build yourself and take your standards to new heights, so that people can take you seriously, I guess. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so what type of, I mean, outside of photography, what type of work do you do?
um I mean, I think there, with my work, I just kind of do a little bit of everything. I like to say, so a lot of it, my photography comes from also my activism. I think
Hmm.
those two are very much linked in together.
Which is
Working with,
exactly why I brought you on.
working with marginalized communities, and being able to, get their voices out there and be on the front
Front lines.
front lines. See, my English, being quarantined makes you forget complete English and
Do you
complete.
English? Do you
Do you
human?
but yeah, exactly. Being there in the front and just being able to have that ability to hear the stories from others and also
Hmm.
capturing those moments through photography.
So then that kind of brings me to another point, which is, what is the power of, photography or filmmaking, like these different crafts, like what is the power of them when they can be distributed, to large masses?
Yeah.
What is the effect of that?
Yeah. I mean, we could see it heavily in New York that, every other day there's a protest going on. There's always some kind of, march or whatever it is. And being able to share that and engage with people and share that information with such a large population, it really brings people's awareness of what's going on. Sometimes we don't see what the people are marching on the news. So,
Hmm.
you're required as a photographer, as a journalist or whatever it is, to go in and tell those stories in the right way.
Yeah.
We see often in our media like that those are not the best outlets to get your sources of information sometimes.
Right. And so that kind of brings me to another point which you touched on, which is, mainstream media, right? It's only, one perspective,
Hmm.
either the left or the right in terms of political correctness, right? Um, but then there's, with, the emergence of independent photographers, independent filmmakers, I've always wondered, or not wondered, but I always concluded that people like Casey Neistat, right, somebody who is, big and revolutionizing the vlog lifestyle, or vlog types of content on YouTube particularly. Um, but basically what he was doing was showcasing that you can be a journalist, and that's, vlogging is a type of
Hmm.
journalism if you really think about it, right? You're telling a story, and it's on a platform that has become mainstream, but it's unfiltered, or at least in the very beginning. Now, as years have gone by, more and more restrictions have been put on these different platforms like YouTube, like Facebook, and others, where you cannot have you cannot say certain things or do certain things, right? Because it violates, certain guidelines. And so before it was much more liberal in that sense, but then now it's becoming, because these platforms are a mainstream communicator. They are like the people in charge, if you want to
Hmm.
call them that,
Hmm.
have been putting their hands and getting a firm grip on these types of on this type of content, because they don't want you to show certain things, right? There's supposed to be a certain narrative that's supposed to be shown, and I think that's the power of media, is that, the power of influence and telling stories. But then when it's to creators like you and I, right, we have our different platforms, and people can see the real stories of everyday life that are probably more interesting than that which is being shown, right?
I agree. Yeah, complete 100%. I think with the media, it's not black and white, it's more nuanced, right? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't get to hear that personal narrative. And when I go to these spaces, I really try to immerse myself in this community. Whoever I'm with, or whoever I'm marching with, I try to really engage with those people and understand what is the life that you're living, right? Like put myself in their
Mm-hmm.
shoes and be
Yeah.
able to tell those stories from their narrative, right? And that's what I use my Instagram a lot for. I use my Instagram to tell those stories of others that might not be heard, often. And so, I
Mm-hmm.
try to keep that engagement within my own audience too, the people who follow me on my Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to tell the stories, particularly with refugees. I work heavily
Right.
with women in several camps. And so being able to tell their stories is extremely important, because sometimes what we see in the media is very much like, oh my god, this is what's happening and this is it. Like there's no
Yeah.
personality to it, right? Like these are human
Right.
beings. We're talking about humans. We're not
They're
talking
not just
about,
statistics.
yeah, it's just numbers. And and I think that's really what interested me to like go in and be like, what is going on? What's the real story? Like I'm
Right.
tired of seeing just numbers. I want to know the people behind these numbers. So yeah.
That that's beautiful, and I'm glad you touched on that. So just kind of shifting gears a little bit, in your experience, mashallah, like as a young adult, you've done quite a bit of traveling for your work and I guess personally as well, just to explore the world. Can you talk about that a little bit and what
Yeah.
inclined you to do it?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I mean, every day I'm constantly always thinking about it. Like, I'm really, really, really 100% always grateful, of that opportunity. But I think partly being in New York, for some people that is already on its own a international experience from Texas, from the South to New York,
Right.
and it's a very different world out there. I mean, completely crazy. But part of me was like, you know, going into New York, I maybe realized I want to see more. Like there has to be more than this. Like I mean, if this is crazy and I'm in the United States, I want to know what's outside of there. And I think growing up, I wasn't able to travel as much again, being coming in from a very low income family and
Mm-hmm.
not having that opportunity. And I really wanted to take that moment, that opportunity within my own university that gave me the opportunity to travel abroad and study abroad. And with that, I was able to manage to go to 23 countries in the last year and a half.
MashaAllah. That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It blows my mind too sometimes because I just never thought it would be possible. But it's been a really crazy and amazing experience to like meet
Mm-hmm.
so many people from different culture and
Mm-hmm.
just like really like live in those environments and live in different lifestyles. It's just, oh my God, it's completely humbling. I would recommend anyone and everyone, if you have the
Thank you.
chance,
Yes, I was about to
always
say
take that opportunity to travel if you can. Yes.
absolutely, and I kind of regret that. I mean, I'm almost 30 now, and I wish. I mean, not that it's not too late,
Yeah.
but maybe when I had the time and I did
Yeah.
have the resources to, you know, take advantage of that or take the opportunities to go travel and explore and see the world, because I believe, and you're a testament to this, that when you go and experience other cultures in person instead of seeing it from the box,
Yeah.
right, all the time.
Yeah.
When you're interacting with people, when you're trying their food, when you're in their atmosphere, when you're in their territory, and then you become amongst them, it just makes you more holistic, I believe.
Hmm.
And inshallah, when things clear up from Corona,
Yeah.
then definitely I think people are gonna be uh, more grateful and not take it for granted. To go out and um, try new things and
Yeah.
fly abroad and experience different cultures, experience different societies, right, and different communities, just to really understand firsthand, and that makes a person much more rounded, like the
Yeah.
globe.
Yeah.
um, so definitely that's on my bucket list. Inshallah, my wife and I are planning to do that uh,
Inshallah. Yes.
when
You
things
guys have
happen.
to. It's a must.
Yeah,
You have to go to Greece as well. Greece is very
that
beautiful.
is on our list. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
You have
sure.
to.
So let's actually switch gears a little bit here and talk about Corona. I mean, you were in New York, right?
No, I'm
When
actually currently in Dallas.
no, currently I know you're in Dallas,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm glad you made it back safe. But I'm saying, were you in New York when Corona hit?
Yeah, so I was in the midst of the whole before the shutdown, like days before the shutdown, I had came here. But yeah, I
Hmm.
was there right when things were starting to hit New York City.
And of course, it's like a cesspool of disease and people and things
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
So, I mean, how did you manage to come back?
Yeah, it's a crazy story, but I personally, I didn't think much of it. The thing about the coronavirus prior to even hitting New York, I was in
Hmm.
Greece while it hit China, like while I was in China, and we were back in January. We were wearing masks, so we were all wearing masks in Greece and
Oh,
Athens before it was big all over the world. And so when I
I
came
see.
back to New York, I was still wearing my mask from the airport, and I was like, why isn't anyone taking this seriously? We're in the middle of a pandemic. And it's like,
Yeah.
like it still hadn't hit New York. And I think, we were in the middle of midterms. This is my final year in university, and we were in the last week, and the university decided to shut down and tell all
Hmm.
their students to, like, just we're going to do remote classing and learning. And so we were like,
Yeah.
okay, but they had said it was only going to be until like mid-April, so we honestly were like, okay. And so I had decided that I'm just gonna stay in New York, continue my studies here in New York, and just kind of
Yeah.
focus here. And then spring break comes around, and I wasn't planning on coming home, but then I think I just decided because everybody was kind of leaving. And at
Yeah.
that moment, when I was on the airport, when I was on the plane, actually, I got an email from the university saying we are no longer having school for the rest of the semester, and like everybody needs to evacuate. All the dorms need to be evacuated. All
As you're on the plane.
on the plane just to go home for a week or two, not much.
Yeah.
And so I had left everything that I had back in my dorm,
Yeah.
and I haven't been back to New York ever since. I've been here since that spring break trip.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's scary and that's
Yeah.
incredible. Like
Yeah.
how just alhamdulillah, you're back and you're
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
safe,
Yeah.
with your
That's
family,
the
which is
most
great.
important part. Yeah, I think that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Whereas my things, we'll figure that out later when the moment comes. Just right now, I think my priorities is being home
For
safely.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So, I guess kind of wrapping things up a little bit, how are you keeping up with photography during Corona?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I remember looking at my camera the day I was kind of rearranging my things in my bedroom. This is like my
Hmm.
childhood bedroom, the bedroom I grew up in as a kid. And
Nice.
I was going through my old cameras and sifting around, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? Like, not only have I just not done photography, but like also I lost my income. My source of income was through photography in New York, and so
Hmm.
that also meant like I wasn't able to get a flow of income. I wasn't able to do the thing that I'm really passionate about.
Hmm.
But I decided to create a quarantine journal. So I've been kind of I haven't went through it, I haven't edited it, I haven't done anything with it, but I'm just documenting my experience being home, being quarantined, you know
Hmm.
and showing kind of the really raw uh the raw me, the raw stories of my life, and kind of like things that resembles my childhood, things that are coming back,
Right.
and hopefully I want to create something out of this, something really great and grand. I
Hmm.
don't know yet what's gonna end up with it, but I am documenting this quarantine journal, and I think it should be really nice and hopefully like really inspiring for others to maybe go in their own home and create something and become, think outside of the box and being creative. I think this time really
Yes.
requires us to be that creative, that bring that creative child that we all have within us and bring
Yeah.
that child back to life, and so that's what I'm trying to do during this time.
That's amazing, Lena, and kudos for again thinking outside the box. During this time when we're all semi freaking out on edge. Things have just started
Yeah.
opening up back in Dallas, at least, and
Yeah.
things are popping. But everybody's, or at least for the most part, wearing masks, being more sanitary,
Yeah.
which I think is very important,
Yeah.
and we should be keeping that up. But I am also worried that there might be a second wave, and it's going to be worse as far
Yeah.
as doctors are concerned, and others in the medical profession. So make sure everybody who's watching that you're staying safe. Make sure you're observing social distancing,
Yeah.
and if you are going out, make sure you have a mask and gloves on, just to be safe. Um, Anything you want to add, Lena, before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think lastly, I just want to add to that last part I just said.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, I think it's very important to realize you don't have to be productive. I think that's another really important thing is like sometimes you don't need to think outside of the box, and just giving that time to give yourself to rest. There's no
Yes.
crime in that. There's no crime in just
There's no
being,
rush.
yeah, this time is not necessary for you to be productive. Like if you are, that's great. If you're not, that's also great. And there's no
Mm-hmm.
shame, in any of it. So I think that's really important to remember, to remind people that like they don't need to be doing things right now. They could take this time to really just rest and take care of themselves. And self care is very important. So
Absolutely. Don't.
yeah, I think
I
it's
mean,
important.
it's always it's important to be a person of service, right? To help others, but do not neglect yourself and your well-being and your mental state, and taking care of yourself physically as well. Do not neglect that. Always make sure you are taking care of yourself, and that's an excellent reminder. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Lena, thank you so much for joining us. If y'all want to follow her, I have her Instagram linked down below in the description. So make sure you check that out and follow her and see her adventures and expressing herself with photography. Lena, thank you so much for taking the
Thank you
time
so much.
to being on the show of Real Time, where we are live talking about film and television and everything in between. And I'll get back to you in just a moment. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Alrighty, y'all. So, yeah, thanks y'all so much for watching this episode of Real Time. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If y'all did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you hit that post notification down below so you know when to tune in on our next episode of Real Time. I have a really special guest coming up on Monday, so make sure you are tuned in for that. May 11th at 6 p.m. I have none other than Mr. Muhammad Ziyara. I'm very excited for that episode, and I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry. But yeah, if y'all enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you are tuned in then. And I will see y'all in the next one. This is Mustafa Talib signing off. Assalamu alaikum. Peace out.